McElroy and Cubelic, Monday, November 24th, 7 a.m. right here on Jock. Glad you're with us. We got a lot to get to. The last time we were on the air with you, there had been no statement that was released by an Ole Miss athletic director. There had been no setup as far as conference championship scenario like we're going to discuss today. And obviously, Alabama and Auburn have played another football game, as have a lot of other schools. We'll get to all of those across the course of the show today. It was a not a loud weekend of college football, I would say. We did have a couple of surprises, I think more so with how games went as opposed to maybe who won those games or what happened on the scoreboard. But told us a lot about what we're going to get this weekend, GMAC. It was more of maybe a setup weekend to give us an incredible rivalry weekend this week, Thanksgiving week, because now everything that's on the line for so many of these games that always mean so much is truly fascinating.
Yeah, it's always a great week. It's my favorite week of the year. We'll never change that. I love what rivalries still mean to the sport. I know the sport has endured a lot of change, a lot of adjustment, but rivalries have not been diminished whatsoever. At least they haven't been yet. We're not seeing a lot of repeat rivalries. It's not like Auburn and Alabama will play this week and then they'll play again next week for the SEC title. Like, we haven't seen anything like that quite. We haven't seen anything quite like that just yet, which is encouraging. But the rivalries are the best. I mean, that's why you do it, and it's what makes college football unique. It's the biggest differentiator, and I hope everyone's as excited as we are to put what was an embarrassingly bad SEC schedule behind us in Week 13 and move forward to what should be the greatest week of our lives this upcoming week.
Absolutely, it's going to be cool this weekend just to see. Really, this week, not even going to have to wait till the weekend before we get some games that are going to help decide conference championship game spots. Going to help decide college football playoff spots. Obviously, there's a ton on the line for a lot of teams this weekend. Alabama gets a win over Eastern Illinois, 56-0. I'm going to be honest. I left this film not really sure what to take from it. I was not impressed by much offensively, and that sounds crazy when you read historically of what some of the things were on offense for Alabama. I thought not having Parker Brailsford made a big difference. They rest a couple of guys in this matchup. Defensively, it was a game where I think you could point to a couple of guys and say, okay, good, you're still rolling the way that you need to, doing some good things. But it was, and I'm going to say this about a lot of the games that we got this weekend, specifically a couple in the SEC, Greg. It just there were very few indicators for me to look at in this game when I watched the film and say, I can really take this from that game and we can apply it to the Iron Bowl or apply it to Alabama the rest of this season.
If you want me to be honest with you, the amount of time I spent on this game yesterday was about 7 minutes. I watched it, didn't try to draw any conclusions from it because I feel like it would be very misleading if I did. The numbers statistically, the plan itself, but bad interception, sure. But like you look at the box score, you're pretty underwhelmed. But I just, these games are worthless and they're an embarrassment. They need to be done away with. So I spent as much time on it as I felt like I needed to. And now the attention looks ahead towards Auburn this week and preparing for that game.
And that one's going to be a big one for a lot of different reasons. So Auburn takes down Mercer 62-17, maybe one that we can have a little bit of extra intrigue with or look at in different ways. First time we get to see Deuce Knight in extended action. He puts up massive numbers. I know the level of competition. I almost dread this. I'm going to be perfectly honest because any positive thing that we say, I know exactly what's coming, and I understand the level of opponent, and I know what it was. But as far as maybe type player he's going to be, things that you look at, intangibles, different things of that nature, I think there are some things to be excited about. There are some things to feel good about, just as what he may end up being as a college quarterback. I love the poise. I love the calm that he showed in the pocket, specifically when he had to move in the pocket, got the ball out quick, changed arm angles a little bit. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that it looks like he's going to be able to be a good runner in college football and what he's going to be able to do to break a defense down. But if that's what you wanted your takeaway to be, I think you felt pretty good about what Deuce Knight may give you one day as a college quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think it can make you feel one of a couple different ways. One, feel good about what he did there. Two, you can be completely misled because that was less than stellar competition. You put Jackson Arnold in the game, would it have been any different? I don't know. 3, now he's got a little leverage potentially to leave if he wants to. 4, and now you're also bringing up the equation, well, why hadn't he been starting all year? That's already started. 5, well, the second things might not go perfectly. Let's just say Ashton Daniels goes 3 and out the first 2 series on Saturday. Oh, deuce night. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think there's a lot of tentacles to that conversation. If I were you, I would just enjoy what it was and move on, because it's not an indicator of current and or future results. Mercer's not a bad football team, by the way. They're not bad. So you look at the ratings, the Sager ratings, all this other stuff. Like, they're not bad. They're 8-1 going into the game on Saturday. So it's better competition than you might realize, but it's not one that you need to start thinking like, oh, goodness, we got the second coming of Cam Newton sitting on our bench right now. Like, we don't know that. Hopefully it is for Auburn fans, but you don't know that. And everyone in the country just saw what he might be able to do. So I wouldn't be that surprised if he tests the market based on how things usually go after performances like that.
It was fun to watch. It was good to see, because you didn't really know exactly what you had. And I think situationally you want to look at a quarterback and say, okay, he handled that way. Now, he was off on some throws. I thought there were a couple of throws he tried to force in there. I did think the ball velocity was pretty good. A couple throws over the middle where he didn't just fire him in there as hard as he could. A couple throws outside where maybe could have taken a little bit off, giving the receiver a better chance to be able to make those plays. And you also feel good about a couple of the receivers and what they did for Auburn in that game against Mercer. So that'll bring us into the Iron Bowl, and we'll have all week to preview it. But just from what you saw this week with both teams, where these two teams have been all season, specifically what's online for Alabama in this game, what are kind of your early thoughts on the Iron Bowl after seeing these two teams play again this weekend, knowing where this game is going to be, what it's going to be all about? What are you kind of looking forward to in this matchup on Saturday night?
Oh, I'm looking forward to a lot of it. I still think it's always a hard game. It's the most important game of the year. Some of the conversation centering around it from an Alabama perspective is a little infuriating, if you want me to be completely honest. This game has never not been a must-win. That's like a little bit of what I'm frustrated with. Is I'm sitting there on the plane on Saturday night. I'm sitting there yesterday with church group and all these other things. It's like, oh man, now that Auburn game's a must-win. Well, tell me the heck when it wasn't. Like, tell me when the Auburn game was not must-win. Oh, you say, oh well, 2017, we still won the Natty. Yeah, how good did it feel losing to Auburn and having your fate be determined by the College Football Playoff Committee? Like, did that feel good? The Auburn and the Iron Bowl game has always been must-win. You beat Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. Does that make the Iron Bowl any less important? Absolutely not. Like, this is always a must-win game. It's always hard to play on the road. And it's always a game that means more than any other one on the schedule. Like, you go and win it. And you don't have this like, oh, man, it's going to be tough. Yeah, no kidding. And good, tough, strong people that want to win championships and call themselves great and do all these amazing things in their lives and careers and all stuff, guess what? You go and do hard things and you accomplish the goal. So to me, some of the conversation surrounding it is like, y'all, alter your mindset. Like, embrace the challenge, embrace the grind, and go out there and whip a team's behind that is 5-6 and needs this win to go to bowl eligibility. A lot of people last year were like, oh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. Auburn's got a chance to go to bowling. And guess what? Alabama killed their will. The same type of approach in a game like this. So I think it's very, very important to get a good start in this game. Neutralize the crowd. I think the start in the first quarter is the most important. Would normally say fourth quarter is the most important. I think in this game it's the first quarter. If Bama can jump them and create some problems for them and take the crowd out of it a little bit, I think they'll be smooth sailing, should be in a good spot. But if Auburn jumps Bama, then things become challenging. It becomes very tough very quickly.
I don't think there's any doubt. It's one where with Alabama's offensive line inconsistencies, you kind of looked at that Auburn front first. What kind of problems can they cause? On the flip side of that, Auburn's offensive line didn't look good in this game against Mercer. There wasn't a consistent push from them in the run game. I think that's one of the reasons the quarterback had so much to do on the ground is, you had them playing on some third and longs, second and longs, and he was able to leave the pocket, do damage. Both groups of receivers, what kind of advantages can they have against the two secondaries? Are they going to be able to create space, find space, run after catch? There's a lot of little intricacies, the dynamic of this game, what the matchup's going to look like, where it's going to go. I'm excited to see it. And that's going to be the case with so many games coming up this weekend. We have teed up a massive rivalry weekend. One of the things, though, that we're going to spend some time on is the statement that came out from Ole Miss on Friday. Keith Carter has a meeting with Lane Kiffin right after practice. They have morning practices there, and those two meet along with the chancellor. Keith Carter's statement reading, Coach Kiffin and I have had many pointed and positive conversations regarding his future at Ole Miss, including meeting today with Chancellor Boyce. While we discuss next steps, we know we cannot lose sight of what's most important, our sixth-ranked team that is poised to finish the regular season in historic fashion. Despite the outside noise, Coach Kiffin focused on preparing our team for the Egg Bowl, and together we want to ensure that our players and coaches can concentrate fully on next Friday's game. This team is on the cusp of an unprecedented season, and it's imperative they feel the support of the Ole Miss family in the week ahead. An announcement on Coach Kiffin's future is expected the Saturday following the game. Where did your mind go? What did you change your opinion on when you read this statement from Keith Carter on Friday afternoon, Mac?
I just don't think and this is unique, but it's weird to me you would announce a press conference to announce he's leaving. To me, I feel like, if anything, it maybe gave me somewhat of a belief that he's very much open to staying in that scenario. How'd you read into it?
I read that my immediate takeaway was, all right, what's in this for Ole Miss? Because you don't do this unless there's potentially something positive for you. And that could be maybe a total green light to begin to move forward and find a new coach. It could be exactly what you said, that the confidence level maybe being 50-50, now it's 80-90% that you're going to have the opportunity to retain Lane Kiffin. I don't think it gives anybody an exact feel or exact knowledge of what's taking place, but I did walk away from that thinking, okay, there's got to be what's in play here for Ole Miss now. Because I think if it's all negative, and if the meeting alluded to the fact that he's gone, like you said, why do you even do it? There's no point in doing it. Like, you handle that. It could be Keith Carter wanting to calm things down somewhat for the players and at least say, hey, let's iron out this last week and a half, get this done, and we'll get through the Egg Bowl and have an idea where we stand there. Maybe that's possible, but I couldn't help but leave this GMAC thinking, all right, something is in play here for Ole Miss. There's something that comes out of this in their favor, and I just can't figure out exactly what that is right now.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think that's my initial takeaway. Like, you can control when you have a press conference, and you don't often have a press conference to announce a guy's leaving. Like, you have a press conference to announce a guy's staying. So that was the first indicator that I've had from the get-go that made me believe, all right, maybe he is staying. Because I've been of the belief he's going to Florida. That's been my thought from the get-go. Nothing has deviated from that for me. I still think that's where he's going. But I do think there is a sliver of hope based on the announcement on Friday. I think you said it was released. I think there's a sliver of hope that maybe he decides to stay, and the full arsenal of resources that they're sending in his direction, maybe it's changed his mind. Maybe there's something else that relates to Ole Miss that has changed his mind as well. But I don't know. I still think he's going to Florida, but I do think there's a possibility he stays. At least there's a higher possibility that he stays than I originally thought.
It's still up in the air, but a lot of those opinions have now changed as to what potentially could be next for Lane Kiffin. We will ask Paul Finebaum on the other side his thoughts on what's next for Lane Kiffin. We'll ask him about rivalry weekend, ask him what he thinks this means for both these teams, and maybe what the college football playoff rankings will look like on Tuesday night. We also have Tony Sakalis is going to join us at 8 o'clock to help make some sort of sense of an insane weekend for UAB football. not only being on the field, but with what happened between a couple of teammates leading to an arrest and a couple in the hospital at 8 o'clock this morning. Tyler Watts is always with us at 9 on Mondays. Richard Hendricks is always with us at 9:30 on Mondays. So keep it locked here. We'll get to all of that. Paul Finebaum next on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:18, Monday, November 24th, right here on Jocks. No need to waste any time. You know who joins us at this spot each and every week. Here this week on Rivalry Week to talk a little bit of Iron Bowl, college football playoff from ESPN, the SEC Network, and hear him right here weekdays 2 to 6 p.m. on Jocks. It's Paul Finebaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, crane works, rental works, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, always great to have you in on a Monday. When you look ahead to Rivalry Weekend, you look at the Iron Bowl, what's on the line? Obviously, for Auburn, it's been a disappointing season for the most part, but getting this game at home with a chance to maybe prevent Alabama from being a part of the college football playoff, what do you look at? How do you view this year's Iron Bowl heading in?
I really believe this is one of the biggest Iron Bowls we've had in a while, and that's really saying something. But to me, Auburn can end a dreary existence over these last 6 or 7 years with a spectacular win, one that really was deprived of them a couple of different times at Auburn, and I think it would I mean, you always hate to say it as a commentator, the joy someone else gets from denying another program their goal, but that's exactly what it's about this week, and that's what this rivalry is about in many ways. It's almost as much about the other guy as it is you. For Alabama, Cole, to me, it's correcting the mistakes of Oklahoma. But whatever Saturday meant, I don't know. And trying to figure out a way to salvage what has been a chaotic season, but one that mostly has been in the sunshine. And a win here would absolve the Oklahoma loss and put the Tide in a great spot.
I think what's funny, Paul, is like I'm talking to folks, whether it's on the plane, traveling, going here, going there, and everyone's like, "Oh man, this Auburn game's a must-win now." Like, yeah, and it wasn't before. I don't think the Oklahoma result changes anything. It's still the Iron Bowl. So I guess I understand very much. Do you really think that we live in a world now where people would have been fine losing to Auburn if they had beaten Oklahoma? Like, at what point we're taking crazy pills, Paul? Walk me through it.
Yeah, well, listen, all I would need to do is, it's a little bit different, but just direct you to Columbus, Ohio a year ago, and I realized that was the third straight loss. But I think the hard part sometimes is that we are very close to the sun in Birmingham, and I hate to say what I'm about to say on this Monday of all Mondays, but for Alabama fans, this game has lost a little bit. It has almost been taken for granted. The losses have been few. They have been, epic, but because this game used to, be such a centerpiece of the schedule, you literally, Ray Perkins 40 years ago said on the eve of one of the greatest Iron Bowls ever that if you lose this game, you hang your head in shame for 365 days a year. But that seemingly has been lost, and some of it is because Alabama has survived a couple of Iron Bowl losses and gone on to win championships. And I think because of that, it's taken on a different meaning. I think it was 17. It could have been 19. I really don't remember. Which one of those 2 years when Alabama lost to Auburn.
17.
I think it was 17. Yeah, and went on to win the national championships. And I never saw any Auburn fans bragging the rest of the year. Hey, man, we were Iron Bowl champions while Alabama was celebrating another national championship. So I think because there's so much else afterwards. But for a guy like Kalen DeBoer, you need to win this game. You need to set everything right. And I think for Auburn, it's just right now Auburn doesn't have a lot to hold on to, so it would be a very big deal.
When you look at what it would mean, maybe from an Auburn perspective, to get this win, I think we all have an idea. What would it do to Alabama if Auburn were to get this win?
Well, I think you just have to start examining in the pantheon of Alabama football seasons, which loss would be more crushing. It's hard for me to find one bigger than 13, only because that took something away from a really great team that could have done something that nobody had ever done before. This would just knock Alabama out of the playoffs. It'd be pretty similar to Oklahoma last year, except it would feel a lot worse. And I think for Kalen DeBoer, sadly, it would undo a lot of the progress that he has made.
Paul, a lot of people, I know a lot of it's emanating out of Happy Valley. I've heard absolutely nothing to support Kalen DeBoer's possibility of going to Penn State. Like, I've been told 0% chance, no shot. Those are direct quotes. And yet Penn State still consistently thinks that they have a real chance. Whereas I've actually been told that Eli Drinkwitz might be the guy to beat there. So what are you hearing about the most updated events in the coaching carousel?
I was talking to some reporter the other day, Greg, and I asked him. Somehow he said, DeBoer to Penn State. I said, where are you getting that from? He said, well, I heard it somewhere. I know this would be a good time for me to get on a soapbox and give a manifesto on the absolute pathetic state of sports reporting and journalism, but I think that's already been done. But it just doesn't take anything nowadays. It just takes hearing something somewhere, and you can't even blame message boards anymore because I haven't seen one in so long. I don't really know what they look like. But it's just somebody putting something out, and then somebody asking you guys a question or me, and then somebody reporting it as, Kalen DeBoer's leaving. And this has nothing to do with the other circuses going on, but I certainly trust what you're saying. I have never heard one ounce of concrete information that indicates DeBoer is going anywhere.
Speaking of coaches going somewhere, Paul, the oddity that was Friday with Keith Carter releasing a statement saying when his coach is publicly going to announce a decision about his future has all of us asking questions, not only where Lane Kiffin will end up next, but Paul, I left that thinking, okay, there has to be something in play for Ole Miss here. I don't think you do that without anything positive coming your way at all. And that could be being able to kickstart your search for a new coach. It may be the opportunity that you think you realistically have a chance to retain Lane Kiffin. What did you take from that statement that Keith Carter released on Friday?
Yeah, I frankly thought it was one of the most embarrassing statements I've read. And I say that not because it didn't say anything, but it just took so long not to say anything. I don't understand why athletic directors, or in his case, vice chancellor of whatever he is, feel the need to have to just pontificate. You can simply state that Coach Kiffin and we met. Chancellor Boyce and I met with Coach Kiffin today. We had a very good meeting. We will update you after the Egg Bowl. I mean, that takes about 2 or 3 sentences as opposed to this. It looked like you'd put something into ChatGPT and said, okay, I want you to spend as many words as possible to say nothing, because it looks like a third grader had written it. It said nothing, by the way. I guess you already knew that.
I'm not sure exactly what significance it gave us as far as the direction of anyone, but yes, maybe more questions for sure.
I thought it was well prepared by ChatGPT. Help me out here, Paul. Like, the Lane Kiffin saga is amazing. I think it's incredible. There's nobody that loves the spotlight more than him. He is 100% leaning into this. This is making him so happy. And it's very stressful, but what does that do to his team this week, who are very much in gotta-have-it mode on the road against a team that has at times shown life, maybe not as much the last couple weeks, but has at times shown life, and in a place that's notoriously hostile?
Yeah, listen, we've all been there, and for a game like this, I don't think it's going to affect them that much, because by now I think they're used to Lane Kiffin and maybe getting it out of the way last week, and by Friday it will have calmed down a little bit. But I mean, it's mostly a media generated story, except that the ringmaster is Lane Kiffin and Jimmy Sexton, and at any point, at any time, they could have put an end to it. And that is why I think most people are leaning into, he has to be leaving, even though all three of us know Lane Kiffin. He may have. Let me stop myself right there and say this: if he ends up staying at Ole Miss, I think he has done that program a disservice by humiliating them in the process, because anybody who cares about a university would not subject themselves, to what has happened. Although we all know that Kiffin on Saturday, assuming he stays there, will blame this on a bunch of reporters who had bad information, even though he could have denied this at any point at any time. But Greg, you said it all. I'm now doing a Keith Carter statement for something you summed up about 3.5 minutes ago. Lane Kiffin is loving every minute of this.
Ultimately, where do you think it ends, Paul?
I think it will end sometime next Saturday with him probably leaving, and I say probably because that would mean I would be trusting a bunch of sources that I don't even know who they are. But the story that came out, I had 10 people, as you guys did, tell me it's LSU right now. A week before, it seemed like Florida. So I mean, I'm out of guesses, and I know that sounds silly for me to be this indecisive, but I'm going to lean into my inner Lane Kiffin and have no earthly idea what he's doing.
Paul, you mentioned like how squirrely some of the sourcing and different things of that nature can be. Have you ever seen multiple sides, factions of the media as confident as different sides are in this situation that something's going to go one direction or the other? Like you said, there are legitimate people in Gainesville we trust that say this is done, it's over. There are folks in Baton Rouge that will say the exact same thing, and there are folks in Oxford that will tell you the exact same thing. I can't remember many instances like this where, sure, it's a little bit predictive, but that multiple factions of the media are confident that the exact opposite is going to happen than maybe what the others are reporting or believe.
And guys, we all know how this is done, and the cliche about the sausage being made. The problem is usually very few people know, and I think the best line I've heard repeatedly is Lane Kiffin probably doesn't know, and I think he had a good week to do whatever he wants, but he's been very unusual lately. I think he is probably trying to figure it out. So if my best guess is he doesn't know. So if my best guess is that he doesn't know, how does some reporter who works for some no-name website who has no sources whatsoever except a friend at another website in another city have any earthly idea what is going on right now?
Wild times, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Paul Finebaum of ESPN, the SEC Network, joining us right here on Jocks. You can hear him this afternoon, 2 to 6 p.m. after three-man front. And we'll be with you all week to talk all the college football. So much more to get to. Your feedback, your thoughts on Alabama-Auburn, rivalry weekend, college football playoff rankings out again tomorrow night. All that and more next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in, be a part of the show today. We've been through a little bit of Auburn, a little bit of Alabama, just not many takeaways, honestly, from either one of those games. And I usually go into some of these games looking for different things schematically, looking for different things that teams may do, things that they're going to try. Just didn't look like there was a ton from either one of these games that we were going to be able to take away, specifically with some of the guys that did not go for both teams. I think that was the case for a lot of these games, these non-conference games from over the weekend. There were some games inside the SEC, though, that I think we can take some things from. Like, I'm going to tell you, if you want to try to go watch A&M and Samford and have a takeaway, shoot me a DM or a text and let me know what it was. Because after two series, I'm not sure. That's one of the few games, Greg, that I felt like the head coach essentially said, this doesn't need to continue. Like, Mike Elko's defense calmed down. The starters came out. Like, the aggressiveness on both sides of the ball shut down. Like, I mean, early in that football game. If you're looking for quality reps from guys that you need to see moving forward, you're not going to get more than 3-4 series in that game. It felt kind of like this probably needs to stop. And one of the few games like that, by the way. So we'll hit a couple of them. I will say South Carolina, some of the things that they did formationally, some of the things they did on offense. They had this little A-gap sniffer that they would put kind of motion in line, and this is not short yardage, by the way. I don't know. Have you ever seen like an H-back sniffer lined up between the center and guard on regular down and distance, like on a regular basis?
To run it or protect?
All of the above. Hand them the ball, be like an insert in the run game, help in protection, but like not on like 2nd and 8. I don't feel like I've seen that very much. Short yardage, yeah, I've seen it some there, like to give you some advantages from either an angle perspective or, getting through there a little bit more quickly to help block in the run game. But like a 1st and 10, I hadn't really seen that before. They ran it a lot in this game, so that's kind of one thing that I saw, like the double insert from Tennessee that they ran, but that's not. I mean, that's not really one of these games. I mean, that's Florida. So, I know Florida's down, but we're not going to look at that one the same way. But I haven't really seen that a ton. So, I guess South Carolina gave us something that we can kind of have a takeaway for in this non-conference weekend.
Yeah,
this
perhaps.
Weekend.
We used to have a little adjustment called Abby, where we would insert a back kind of in the A gap, just to account for double A pressure. And obviously, Clemson runs some double-A pressure, so maybe getting something on tape for that, getting some reps at that. So, yeah, we used to have something similar to that. It also just kind of adjusts the offensive line splits, kind of talks a team that will play a little bit of an even to a slightly outside even front. It kind of accounts for a guy that probably not going to be able to cross-face. It protects the guard a little bit, kind of forces the defensive tackle to work inside and an obvious pass. So, like, yeah, we had some things like that, but not really on, like, regular down and distance. Is mostly a 3rd down adjustment.
Yeah, it's and especially right there behind the center and the guard, I haven't seen that a whole lot. That was one thing that we'll have that maybe showed up in a couple of these games. This just felt a little bit different than some other lettuce weekends for some reason. I'm not really 100% sure why.
Because it's dumb, and we're over it. We know it's the last one, so we're in good shape.
Maybe moving forward it will be different, and it'll provide us with less of this. I think we all hope that for sure. Don't get caught in the cold, though. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train Comfort Specialist. Train has been recognized 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. It's hard to stop a Train. Cal has fired Justin Wilcox. So that's going to be another head coaching vacancy that we're going to have this offseason in college football. Nick Rolovich, the interim.
Rolo.
That is a whole conversation in and of itself of the oddities that we're dealing with in that deal. Florida State is going to retain Mike Norvell. Greg, I think we know a lot of the reasons why this is taking place. This is most likely a financial decision. We both like Mike Norvell. It has been a rough year. Specifically, Friday night did him no favors as far as this situation moving forward. But I think this just proved that Florida State's not in a spot to make this move right now.
They can't afford it. So they can mask the, quote, football decision they can mask the financial decision with a, quote, football decision. Oh, well, things have to change. You don't say. So you're saying sustaining doing what we've done the last couple of years is okay? Like, come on, man. Like, we know. Just admit it. Like, hey, we can't afford to fire him right now. I'm sorry, we can't. Like, it's pretty simple as that. And it stinks. You hate it. But financial ramifications are significant, and Florida State has not been a place in the past that has just been flushed with cash. And they have their Project Osceola, which is a big investment into their facilities and things like that, and other things around the community. So it was just, they can't afford it. Simple as that. And I still think, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm the psycho one. I actually think that Mike Norvell is a pretty good coach. I think he has I think the program has kind of sold their soul a bit because of the disappointment that was 2 years ago when they didn't make the college football playoff. And all of a sudden they had to, they felt the need to sustain that level. And they went and relied too heavily on the portal. They have removed some culture as a result. And now here they are. The second things go wrong, there's a front-running group. The second things go wrong, they can't pick themselves up. And that's what they need to get fixed. And you can't do it overnight. That's the problem. When you live by the portal, you die by the portal. And I feel like that's what's happened with Florida State.
I don't think there's any doubt that then you flip to kind of what Ole Miss has done and shows you that it can operate that way for the most part. And you can have success managing your program that way the majority of the time. So I think
But you need strong leadership to be able to do that. And I think the reason why Ole Miss has worked pretty well is that, one, I think Lane approaches it very NFL-like. Like, he's been a head coach in the NFL, grew up around an NFL locker room. Like, I think he handles it like, hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You help me win, I'll get you to the show. And he had Jackson Dart last year to establish a culture. Like, who's been the guy that's been establishing the culture for Florida State? It was Jordan Travis for a few years, and then he got hurt, and then it was nobody. There's nobody to establish the culture the last 2 seasons.
Fair. And you're going to have to get certain guys, and they're going to have to give you certain things if you're going to continue to be able to manage your program that way. Mike Norvell will get another shot at it, though. And this is there's certain things in college football that we know, but I think they hit us differently at different times. And this hit me on Friday doing some prep, talking to some people on our crew for Western Kentucky and LSU. And something was said about next year. And I was like, well, there is no conversation about next year's roster. And I realize this is different with different teams, but especially these teams that are hiring a new coach, what are we going to do? Sit up there and put up possible returning starters, players that have an opportunity to maybe come back? Like, you can't have that conversation that way. And even with Mike Norvell, like you said, as reliant as he is on the portal, what you just threw out there, can we even speculate as to who that might be next year? So it's hard to even sit here and say, okay, yeah, they might be fine because of this guy coming back. Well, they'll have this person in this situation. We have no idea what it's going to look like. He might have to do a complete reset again on the roster. So these are just conversations of, hey, is it worth keeping him? Hey, can he get it right? Hey, will they be good next year? Hell, we don't know. We got to see what they got first. Apparently Gus Malzahn interviewed for the Arkansas job. So is he still going to be there? Is he calling off? There are just so many intangibles of what has to be in place for us to even have a discussion about if a guy's going to be able to be successful next year. When you're in a situation like this, G-Mac, it's almost impossible.
Yes. Very difficult. And it's not – I think it's very tough if you're sitting there saying, oh, next year. That's great. But you don't even know at this point the guys that you're counting on might not be there either. Like, you might be sitting there thinking like, oh, heck yeah, we got 3 more years of eligibility with this cat. And a lot of guys are thinking that right now. And then you even survive the winter portal. You know what I mean? Like, you survive the winter portal, and then they graduate, and all of a sudden they decide to enter the portal. It's like, whoa, hang on a second. Well, what happened here? So I think a lot of that can shake up in a hurry, and I think it's very difficult right now to confidently say, yeah, next year this is what things are going to look like.
It's wild times, man. It is. And when you look at where we are right now in college football, it's only going to get wilder in the next 6 days, because some of these coaching vacancies are going to be filled by coaches from where? Other bigger schools. And then those jobs are going to be vacant. And then the portal's going to open. And then teams are or not going to be in their conference championship games, which we need to run through those scenarios, because can you remember a time that there was this much clarity on conference championship games collectively? Which is another thing that makes this weekend so great, and this week so great, is what's going to be on the line for so many different teams, of being able to get in and maybe having a chance to play for a conference title, which would put you into the college football playoff. Some of the questions going into this week are incredible with what's going to be on the line and what teams are going to be playing for, and some of the questions that are going to be answered.
It's really crazy. You're 100% right. And I think a lot of it, tell me this, I know this is wild, but it's amazing to me how guys can be coaching somewhere for God knows how long, and all of a sudden the optics of them being hired change on one game, which is really sad. But the realities are, let's use an example. Like, there was a time in which, a guy was viewed very favorably. I'm not going to use any specifics because I don't want to, put people in tough spots or burn any bridges. But guys viewed very, very favorably, actually in line to get hired somewhere and actually be, considered. And all of a sudden they lose 1 or 2 games in a row, or maybe as a coordinator, their defense has 2 or 3 bad games in a row, or 1 bad game, for example. And all of a sudden this guy's unhireable now. It's amazing to me the recency bias that goes in to some of these hires, especially when looking at the bigger picture, the whole body of work. There's a lot of recency bias when it comes to these coaches. And it's crazy. So this weekend's outcomes, even if you play a game on Friday night, this weekend's outcomes could become impactful in a guy's possible hiring. That's crazy.
Wild to think about. All right, we'll move on to our next segment. I want to talk a little bit about Greg's game that he was on. There are going to be some implications for at least one of those football teams this week that are going to be pretty big. We'll talk about game I was on as well, our weekends, what's coming up this week for us. For you guys, want to hear about your Thanksgiving plans now that we have a full slate on Black Friday. That was brought up by one of the listeners. Also a question about Alabama's offense brought up by one of our listeners that I want to ask GMAC next as it pertains to this weekend. We'll do that right after this on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. How was the trip to Norman, G-Mac?
Great. We've done it 3 times now. Got a good feel for it. It was good. We enjoyed it.
I know that it's a long one of the longer trips in the SEC that you have to make. But if you were to have to move out there, exactly who would you call?
Big Crocker Movers are a local company owned by the Iraq War veteran Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
One thing that I noticed this week that I had kind of forgotten about, and I don't know if you remembered this or not, because we complained about this 2 years ago when the schedule was put out, and we were really upset about it going into this year. Were you aware of the fact that we have college football Thanksgiving night?
Yes, we have Navy against Tulane?
Memphis.
Tulane
has Charlotte to clinch a spot in the conference championship game, which Charlotte has 1 win. So I think they'll be okay there. I think Summerall can probably his group handle that one.
Easy.
Well, I also watched Charlotte against Georgia, which, by the
Queen
way,
City Bandit. No, come on,
Charlotte,
man. You love the Queen City.
This tight end that Charlotte has that essentially looks like a leftover guard. I love that kid. I'm a fan of that guy.
Okay, love it.
And
Keep
by
an
the
eye
way,
out for him in the portal.
And no, I don't know how much use there's going to be for him at a lot of other schools. But
what?
This was just more of a fun thing for me, not he could realistically go to a lot of other places and really help him. Joey Burns, the third, 6'1", 280, tight end.
Aha.
Let's go. He's
Love
out there
that.
running routes, and I'm like, he looks like a high school center out there running routes.
Wow.
Good little player, though. Good little player. Yeah.
I'm glad you like him.
He's
Hey,
tough.
if you want,
He just
you want to
basically
bring him
he looks like a leftover offense.
I think he'd be a great Auburn Tiger.
Oh, I'm sure that they could find a way somewhere in the future if it's sort of a offense that has emphasis on the run game, give him a little H-back spot, make him kind of like a Robbie Oots type guy.
I don't know if you
might
cut
like
out
him
or
for
if
that.
my ears cut out. Tell me exactly his measurables one more time.
6'1", 280.
Heck yeah.
Just saw it all.
I'll take that guy on my team any day.
No, I was watching that one yesterday. Like, I love that dude. He's not. No, don't get it twisted. He's not stretching the field on anybody, but
Don't need him to.
he'll inflict some punishment. All right. So tomorrow night we get Bowling Green, UMass, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and some action. And then Thursday night, yes, college football is back on Thanksgiving night. This is incredible. Navy at Memphis. Navy's 8-2, Memphis 8-3. So we get a really good football game too on Thursday night. Now, I think we would all love for this to be the Egg Bowl because there's many of us that believe that's where this game kind of lives. But nonetheless, that in of itself is going to make Friday just immaculate when you think about the SEC schedule. All on ABC. Egg Bowl at noon, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, clean old-fashioned hate, Georgia, Georgia Tech, 3:30 on ABC, and then Lone Star Showdown, I guess is what we call it, 7:30 on ABC, Texas A&M, Texas. Greg, did people call that game growing up? Like, have kids been walking around for years saying Lone Star Showdown week?
I don't remember it being that way. When I was growing up, it was just Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think
Or
this
Aggies
started
Longhorns.
I think we got cute with this a couple years ago. And started trying to make that a thing. So, like, I didn't grow up being like Sunshine Showdown this weekend, Florida State, guys. This wasn't a real thing.